Commander Ethan Cross stood on the bridge of the UES Vanguard, the largest warship humanity had ever built. 3 kilometers of armor, reactors, and weapons stretched behind him, a machine designed to fight battles no one had yet dared to imagine. Outside the viewport, stars drifted against the black, uncaring and silent. The ship was hours away from Silistara Station, the heart of the Galactic Concord, and every step of the journey had been calculated to send a message. 6 months ago, Earth had received a signal from deep space. It was not human and it was not random. It carried a simple proposition. The Concord invited humanity to open diplomatic talks and consider membership. They had given coordinates, a time, and one vague instruction: send a ship of representatives. The lack of detail was the problem. What kind of ship? A diplomatic cruiser, a science vessel, a symbolic shuttle? Admiral Rourke had ended the debate with a single sentence: we go with our strongest, or we don't go at all. That decision had brought the Vanguard here, armed with fusion cannons, railguns, and quantum warheads, crewed by 2,000 of Earth's best. Now the ship moved like a steel leviathan through the void, and the bridge crew worked in tense silence. Commander Alicia Ward, chief diplomat, approached Cross with folded arms. "You realize," she said quietly, "that we look like we're here to conquer, not to talk." Cross didn't look away from the stars. If they wanted to conquer us, they wouldn't have sent an invitation. If they respect anything, it will be our ability to defend ourselves. "Or they'll see it as arrogance," she replied. Before he could answer, Lieutenant Vega from Tactical called out, "Weapons systems at full readiness. Fusion cannons charged. Quantum ordnance locked." His tone was matter-of-fact, but it made the air on the bridge feel heavier. Navigation chimed in next. Hyperspace drop in 20 minutes. Long-range scans show 21 ships docked at Silistara, none longer than 800 meters. Many appear unarmed. Cross felt the weight of that. To the Concord, their arrival would look like a predator gliding into a garden. But the decision was made. All that was left was to manage the consequences. The Vanguard dropped from hyperspace in a flash of warped light. Across the Concord fleet, sensors screamed in alarm. Energy readings surged past known scales. Shield harmonics and reactor output suggested capacities the smaller vessels could hardly comprehend. On Silistara's observation decks, alien delegates froze at the sight of the warship approaching. Station Control's voice came through, trembling but polite. "Earth vessel, your power output is disrupting station systems. Reduce to minimal operating levels and proceed to docking bay 12. Harper, the chief engineer, reduced power but whispered to Cross, "Minimal output still dwarfs them. There's no hiding what we are." The approach was slow, deliberate. Every weapon mount, every slab of armor, every angular shadow on the Vanguard's hull broadcast the same truth. This was a ship built for war. Through the umbilical, the away team stepped into the Grand Assembly Hall, a cathedral of alien design, filled with eyes, lenses, and sensory organs fixed on them. The first to speak was a crystalline ambassador whose body glowed in shifting colors. "Your vessel is larger and more heavily armed than any we have known. Why bring such power to a meeting of peace?" Ward's voice was calm. "Because peace is safeguarded by strength. We came ready to protect the very thing we are here to discuss." A low murmur swept the assembly. Some eyes narrowed. Others studied the humans as if cataloging predators. Dr. Veyron, a Concord scientist, stepped forward. Your physiology, it is unlike most known species, high gravity bone density, oxygen tolerance beyond lethal levels for many here. You are by every measure apex life forms. Cross met his gaze. We evolved to survive, and survival taught us that strength without wisdom is ruin. The room fell quiet. The statement hung there, half warning, half invitation. From somewhere in the back, a reptilian general watched them with an expression humans would have called respect. For the first time since their arrival, Cross sensed the smallest shift, from fear toward possibility. The hall remained silent for several breaths after Cross's last words. Dozens of alien delegates exchanged glances, subtle movements betraying emotions the humans could only guess at. Ward held her posture, eyes scanning the crowd, weighing which faces showed curiosity and which hid fear. A tall, insectoid figure with multifaceted eyes stepped forward. The translator rendered its voice into a sharp, precise tone. "Commander Cross, you claim to protect peace, yet your vessel could dismantle this station in minutes. What message does that send?" Cross met the alien's gaze without flinching. "It sends the message that we will never arrive unprepared. History taught us that those who come empty-handed often leave in chains." The statement drew a ripple of reaction, some murmurs, others a flicker of body light or the twitch of limbs. Ward leaned in slightly. "Commander, careful," she murmured, but Cross kept his eyes on the delegates. A crystalline figure, the Lorathi ambassador, Selin, spoke next, her body glowing with a cautious amber. "Your arrival was unprecedented. Many here feared you came to demand, not to discuss." Ward stepped forward now, her voice steady but warm. "If we had come to demand, there would be no conversation. We came because your invitation intrigued us, but we are not naive. The galaxy is vast. There are dangers neither of us fully understands. We show strength to prove we can stand as equals, not as subjects." The Loratha's glow shifted, uncertain, and yet many species here joined the concord without such displays. Cross answered before she could continue. "How many of them come from death worlds?" The translator hesitated as if uncertain it had heard correctly. The question hung in the air. Dr. Malik, standing slightly behind the commander, stepped in. "My colleagues may not be aware. Earth is what we classify as a high-threat biosphere. Our gravity is 50% higher than galactic standard. Oxygen levels toxic to many species. Apex predators in every biome. Survival on our world was never a given, it was a daily fight." Several delegates exchanged startled looks. One small, avian-like alien whispered to another, its feathers rising in what might have been shock. Cross continued, voice even. "We are what our world made us. Cautious, resilient, and, when necessary, dangerous. But we learned early that endless fighting leads only to ruin. Our greatest achievements came when we built instead of destroyed." A deep, resonant voice spoke from the far side of the hall. The Karun general Arvex stepped forward. His scales caught the hall's light in muted bronze. "And yet you keep your weapons close." "Yes," Cross said, "because power unused is not wasted, it is restrained. We learned that peace without the will to defend it is only an invitation to conquest." The hall shifted. Delegates leaned toward each other, translators whispering in dozens of tongues. Ward sensed the balance tipping, not toward trust yet, but toward understanding. "Doctor," Veyron's voice broke the low murmur. "Commander, your people's history, is it filled with war?" Ward's lips tightened, but she didn't answer. Cross did. "Yes, too much of it. We fought over land, over belief, over resources. We built weapons that could end all life on our world, and then chose not to use them again. We made laws, treaties, alliances, not because we stopped being capable of destruction, but because we finally understood the value of what we could lose. That line caught. Several delegates stilled, their body language shifting to something quieter, more contemplative. Selen, the Lorathi, tilted her crystalline head. "You speak as if your species carries a burden." "We do," Cross replied. "The burden of knowing exactly what we can do if we fail to choose wisely." For a moment, there was no sound but the soft hum of the hall's life support. Then from the rear, a smaller voice, high and trembling, spoke through the translators. A Mentari envoy, its 6 eyes blinking in slow sequence. "Are humans a violent species?" Ward stepped closer, her gaze sweeping the assembly. "We can be, but we prefer not to be. Violence is the last resort, not the first. Our best works, our medicine, our cities, our art come from peace. But when peace is threatened, we do not stand aside." The Mentari blinked again, slowly, as if digesting the words. General Arvex inclined his head slightly, the closest a Karun ever came to a nod. "A predator that chooses not to hunt, that is unusual." Cross let the silence that followed breathe. He knew the message was landing, imperfectly, but landing nonetheless. Finally, Selen spoke once more, her glow softening toward a pale blue. "Perhaps we judged too quickly, but trust will require more than words." "That," Cross said, "is why we are here, to show, not just to tell." Ward caught the subtle shift in the room, fear easing by a fraction, replaced by something else, curiosity. It was the first crack in the wall between them. And cracks, Cross knew, had a way of widening. 3 hours after the tense first session, Cross stood in the Vanguard strategy room with Ward, Doctor, Malik, and Vega. The walls shimmered with holographic feeds from Concord news channels, images of the Vanguard docking replayed on a loop, alien commentators speaking in languages the translators rendered as provocation, unprecedented, and occasionally potential ally. Ward paced in a slow circle. "They're split," she said. "Half of them are still convinced we're a threat. The other half, they are intrigued, but curiosity won't get us through the door." Cross studied the feed without turning. "So we give them something better than curiosity." Before Ward could ask what, the comm system chimed. The voice of Celestara's council speaker filled the room. "Commander Cross, Captain Ward, your presence is requested in the Concord High Chamber immediately." They exchanged a glance. Ward exhaled through her nose. "Well, that's either an invitation or a summons." In the high chamber, the atmosphere was heavier than before. Every delegate was present, but now their posture was sharper, more formal. Council Speaker Thal, an avian species draped in layered silk, rose from the central dais. "Commander Cross," Thal began, "the Concord has debated your arrival and intentions. Words are insufficient. We require demonstration. A Concord colony in the Virelys sector is under threat from independent raiders. The local defense force is minimal." Ward's eyes narrowed. "You're asking us to intervene." "We are offering you the opportunity," Thal corrected smoothly. "Defend a member world, protect civilians, show us if your strength is more than intimidation." It was a test. Cross knew it instantly. If they succeeded, they'd prove their value. If they failed, the Concord would have proof that humanity's bark was worse than its bite. Cross inclined his head. "Give us the coordinates." The speaker's crest feathers lifted in surprise. "You accept without conditions." "We've faced raiders before," Cross said. and we don't negotiate about protecting civilians." A murmur swept the chamber. Some delegates whispered, others leaned forward as if taking mental notes. Back aboard the Vanguard, Vega was already pulling the data from Concord channels. "They weren't exaggerating," he said. "The Virley's outpost has 20,000 civilians, most of them miners and technicians. Defense is 4 patrol craft, light shields, minimal armament. The raiders have 2 destroyers and a carrier, all heavily armed." Ward crossed her arms. "You realize they're watching everything we do." "That's the point," Cross said. Harper's voice came over the comm. "Reactors spinning up, hyperspace vector plotted, we can be there in 7 hours. As the Vanguard aligned for the jump, Dr. Malik approached Cross quietly. "You know some in the council are hoping you fail." Cross gave a thin smile. "Then let's disappoint them." The transition to hyperspace was smooth, the massive engines pushing the warship into the swirling unreality of faster-than-light travel. In the command chair, Cross reviewed the raider profiles: former mercenaries, armed smugglers, deserters from failed planetary armies. The kind of predators who thrived on weakness. 7 hours later, the Vanguard dropped into the Virley system. Immediately, the tactical display lit with hostile signatures, raider ships in high orbit over the colony's primary mining station. Plasma fire arced between the attackers and the outpost shields, which were already flickering under the strain. "Open a channel to the raider leader," Cross ordered. A few seconds later, a sneering humanoid face filled the main screen. "And what's this? A new prize ship for us to claim." Cross's voice was steady. "You are attacking a civilian installation under Concord protection. Cease fire and withdraw." The raider laughed, baring teeth filed to points. "Or what?" The Vanguard's forward batteries powered up with a low, resonant hum that filled the bridge like the growl of a predator. Cross didn't raise his voice. "Or you learn why humans don't bluff." The raider's smirk faltered. "Humans," he repeated as if tasting the word. Then he cut the channel. "Multiple locks on our position," Go reported. "They're going to test us." "They're welcome to try," Cross said. "Target their weapons systems only. Disable, don't destroy." Within minutes, the Vanguard's cannons spoke, precision bursts that stripped shields and shattered turrets without touching the raider's hull integrity. One by one, the hostile ships went dark, drifting powerless. "Enemy weapons offline," Vega confirmed. "They are hailing, begging for terms." Cross's reply was short. "Leave the system, now." The raiders didn't need to be told twice. On the mining station, the surviving defenders sent a flood of signals: thanks, relief, disbelief. The outpost's governor, a scaled, soft-spoken being named Relix, appeared on the screen. "We did not expect this. Your ship arrived like a storm, but you left the sun shining." Cross inclined his head. "That's the idea." By the time they returned to Silistara, live feeds of the engagement were already circulating across Concord space. The high chamber was waiting. Council Speaker Thal addressed them first. "The Virley's system is secure. No civilian casualties. Minimal damage to raider craft. Your restraint was noted." Selen, the Lorathi ambassador, leaned forward. "You proved capable of great force and of stopping short. Perhaps there is merit in what you offer." Cross simply said, "We don't fight for conquest. We fight so that others don't have to." For the first time, several delegates nodded without hesitation. 2 days after the Virley's mission, the Vanguard was docked once again at Silistara Station. This time, the air in the Grand Hall felt different. The stares from alien delegates carried less suspicion, more calculation, like they were trying to solve a puzzle they'd suddenly realized might be worth solving. Council Speaker Thal welcomed them without the stiff formality of before. "Commander Cross, Captain Ward, your actions in Virles were observed by billions. You demonstrated efficiency, precision, and restraint. Many here wish to understand how such power is possible." Ward smiled slightly. "Understanding is the first step toward trust." Selen, the Lorathi ambassador, leaned forward, crystalline body shifting to a softer hue. "We request a cultural and technological exchange. Show us who you are beyond the armor." Cross agreed without hesitation. "You'll get the full picture: science, medicine, history, even the parts we're not proud of." Over the next 48 hours, sections of the Vanguard became guided tour routes for Concord delegations. In the engineering decks, Chief Harper explained the ship's fusion reactors, their triple redundant safety protocols, and their ability to operate for decades without refueling. Several alien engineers whispered in astonishment at the precision of human fabrication. One insectoid delegate clicked its mandibles in disbelief. "You can construct a vessel this size in under 2 standard years." Harper nodded. 18 months at our Luna shipyards, faster for smaller classes." The revelation spread quickly. Many Concord species took over a decade to complete a warship half the Vanguard's size. In the medical wing, Dr. Nadia Foster demonstrated advanced trauma treatment systems, regenerative biogels, neural repair scaffolds, organ cloning units. Alien physicians watched in silence as a holographic simulation showed a human soldier recovering fully from injuries that would be fatal to most species. "How is this possible?" asked Dr. Rivan, a Concord medic whose species had a natural lifespan of barely 60 years. Foster answered calmly, "Our biology is resilient, but our technology does the rest. We've learned to turn survival into recovery, and recovery into a return to life." Dr. Malik gave the delegates a historical briefing in the Vanguard's holo conference room. He didn't sanitize the record. He showed images of Earth's wars, from swords and muskets to nuclear detonations. Gasps and uneasy shifts filled the room when they saw footage of mushroom clouds rising over ancient cities. "You built weapons that could erase your world," Selen said softly, "and yet you're still here." "Yes," Malik said, "because we decided those weapons should never be used again. They still exist, but they exist as deterrents. We learned that the choice not to destroy is the truest measure of civilization." That line struck deep. Even General Arvex, who had been skeptical from the start, inclined his head. Ward added, "We don't claim to be perfect. We still have conflict, we still make mistakes, but we strive for a balance, strength to defend, wisdom to know when to use it." On the final day of the exchange, the humans hosted a cultural evening in the Vanguard's hangar bay. Holographic projectors transformed the space into a panorama of Earth's landscapes: mountain ranges, oceans, forests, cities lit by 1,000 colors. Music from across human history filled the air: orchestral symphonies, jazz improvisations, folk songs sung in languages the Concord translators had to work to keep up with. For many aliens, it was the first time they saw humanity not as soldiers, but as artists, builders, storytellers. Selen stood beneath a projection of the northern lights and let her crystalline body refract the shifting greens and purples. "Beauty born from a world that tried to kill you," she murmured. "That is rare." Cross heard her and answered, "That's why it matters to us. Beauty means more when you've had to fight for it. The event ended with quiet conversations instead of tense debates. Delegates lingered, asking questions about Earth's literature, about how humans could laugh even in hardship, about why they invested so much effort in preserving history. Some left with datapads full of human music and poetry. Later, in the privacy of the Vanguard strategy room, Ward leaned against the table, arms crossed but eyes lighter than before. "You feel it, they are starting to see us." Cross nodded. "The warship got their attention, this gets their respect." Dr. Malik smiled faintly, "And maybe their trust." But before the warmth of progress could settle, Viga's console pinged an urgent alert. "Commander," he said, "we've got an incoming Concorde priority transmission. It's marked Category Crimson." Cross moved to the display. The message unfolded in stark, simple terms. Distress call from the rimworld of Tassar. Unknown hostile force. Civilian casualties mounting. Concorde defense unable to respond in time, requesting any available protector assets. Ward's expression hardened. "Another test." Cross shook his head. "Not this time, that's a real cry for help." He turned to Harper. "Spin up the drive. This time we don't just show them what we can do, they'll see why it matters." The Vanguard slipped from hyperspace into the Tassar system like a shadow torn from the void. Immediately, the tactical display came alive, red icons swarming around a pale blue sphere. The surface of Tassar glimmered with the lights of cities and mining colonies, but in orbit chaos reigned. Fires burned along the hulls of crippled defense platforms. Civilian freighters scattered in panic, some already trailing atmosphere from breached compartments. "Multiple hostile signatures," Viga reported, his voice clipped. 20+ ships, mixed classes, heavily armed. They're targeting civilian traffic as much as the defense grid. "Open a channel to the lead ship," Cross ordered. Static, then a guttural voice came through, dripping with contempt. "Another Concorde ship come to die, you'll find we don't leave survivors." Cross didn't blink. "You're attacking a civilian world. Stand down or you'll face consequences you can't imagine." The reply was a bark of laughter, cut short by the unmistakable hum of the Vanguard's fusion cannons coming online. Harper's voice came over the comm. "Reactors steady, all batteries hot. Target weapon systems only," Cross said, eyes narrowing. "We're not here to slaughter unless they force us." The Vanguard moved with impossible grace for its size, angling between a fleeing passenger liner and an incoming missile salvo. Viga's fingers danced over controls, and in 3 sharp bursts, the cannons vaporized the missiles mid-flight, the shockwaves harmlessly dissipating against the Vanguard's shields. "All civilian ships within our immediate arc are clear," Viga reported. "Good," Cross said. "Now let's take their teeth." In less than 4 minutes, the first wave of hostile fire had been neutralized. The Vanguard's railguns struck with surgical precision, shearing off turret clusters, overloading shield arrays, disabling engines. Each hit was deliberate, calculated not to ignite reactors or detonate fuel stores. The enemy ships drifted helpless, weapons dead, crews staring into the void at the warship that had just dismantled them without spilling a drop of unnecessary blood. But the battle wasn't over. A formation of 5 destroyers broke from the main group, accelerating toward Tassar's largest city. Their trajectory was obvious: planetary bombardment. "They mean to make a point," Ward said sharply. "Then we'll make a better one," Cross replied. Harper pushed the drives. Viga, all forward batteries, concentrated fire on their lead ship. The vanguard surged forward, acceleration pressing the crew into their seats. In seconds, the destroyers were within range. The first salvo from the vanguard punched through the lead ship's shields, stripping armor to the bone. The second blew its engines apart, sending the vessel into a slow, tumbling spin away from the planet. The others faltered, changing course, but the vanguard was already there, cutting off their escape, railguns hammering precise bursts that left them floating wrecks, intact but utterly disarmed. "Tassar orbit is secure," Vega confirmed, the tension in his voice finally easing. On the surface, emergency beacons flickered off one by one as danger passed. Relief messages flooded the comms. The planetary governor's face appeared on the main screen, a lean, pale-skinned being with eyes like molten gold. "You saved us," he said simply. "Not just with force, but with control. No civilians lost in orbit. Our people will remember that." Cross inclined his head. "That's the point. We're not here to win battles, we're here to stop them from needing to happen." The Concorde fleet arrived an hour later, too late to fight but not too late to witness the aftermath. Several captains hailed the vanguard directly, some with open admiration, others with reluctant acknowledgement. General Arvex's voice came through last. "Commander Cross, perhaps I misjudged your kind." "Maybe," Cross replied. "Or maybe you just needed to see us in the right fight." When they returned to Silistara, the High Chamber was in session before the vanguard even docked. News feeds of the Tassar defense played on massive screens, showing the warship moving like a guardian between the planet and its attackers. The commentary wasn't about fear anymore. It was about precision, discipline, and an almost unsettling refusal to take lives unnecessarily. Selen addressed them first. "In 2 engagements, you've defended Concorde worlds without destruction beyond necessity. Your technology is advanced, your tactics are frighteningly efficient, yet you hold back." Cross met her crystalline gaze. "Because power without restraint isn't strength, it's just violence. We know the difference." Thal, the council speaker, spread his wings slightly. "And if such restraint ever falters, then we expect you to hold us accountable," Ward said. "Partnership cuts both ways." It was a risk, putting that challenge into the open. But in the moment of quiet that followed, Cross saw it, the shift. The fear that had greeted them on arrival was being replaced by something heavier, more valuable: respect. And respect, he knew, was the foundation for everything that would come next. The vanguard's return to Silistara Station was unlike their first arrival. This time, there were no alarms blaring, no hasty evacuation protocols. Instead, shuttles from multiple Concorde species were already waiting at the docking bay, their hulls marked with the insignia of high-ranking envoys. Ward noticed it first as they disembarked. "They're not treating us like a curiosity anymore," she murmured. "This is reception-level protocol." Cross gave a short nod. "Let's hope it's for the right reasons." The High Chamber convened less than an hour later. Speaker Thal opened the session with none of the guarded phrasing from their earlier meetings. "Commander Cross, Captain Ward, your defense of Virles and Tassar has shifted the balance of our discussions. Many member worlds now see Earth as more than an unknown factor. They see a potential cornerstone in the Concorde's defense." General Arvex stood, his scaled frame towering over the smaller delegates. "I spoke against these humans when they first arrived. I saw only a weapon looking for a war. But I have seen how they fight and how they choose not to fight. I will not speak against them again." The words carried weight. Arvex's people, the Karun, were among the most respected warrior species in the Concord. His endorsement was a political windfall. Selen's crystalline form pulsed with a steady, calm light. Recognition of capability is only the first step. We need to know where Earth stands when the stakes are highest. The Concord has enemies, not just raiders and pirates, but organized powers that reject our laws and prey on the weak. Cross folded his hands on the table. You want to know if we'll stand with you when the worst comes. Thal inclined his head. Exactly. And to decide that, we must trust you with information few outside this chamber have seen. At a gesture from the speaker, the chamber's central holoprojector came alive. Star charts rotated slowly, then zoomed in on a vast swath of unclaimed space along the Concord's outer rim. Red markers bloomed across dozens of systems. Dr. Malik's brows furrowed. Those aren't Concord patrol routes. No, Selen said. They're confirmed incidents, colonies wiped out, ships vanished, stations found abandoned. No survivors, minimal debris. Viga's voice was low. That's not raider work. It isn't, Thal confirmed. We believe it's the work of an unknown civilization, highly mobile, technologically advanced, and entirely hostile. Our scouts call them the Hollow Veil. They leave nothing alive, and nothing we've sent against them has returned. The holo shifted again, showing sensor ghosts, blurs, and distortions of massive constructs moving through the dark. No solid images, only fragments. Ward's eyes narrowed. If they are that dangerous, why are we just hearing about them now? Selen's light dimmed slightly. Because admitting our vulnerability would invite chaos. Many member worlds are already uneasy. If they knew the Concord cannot stop this enemy. Cross leaned forward. You're telling me you've been losing territory and you've kept it quiet to maintain stability. Arvex's voice was a low growl, and we can't keep it quiet much longer. The attacks are moving inward. Thal's gaze swept the humans. We want to know if Earth will stand with us formally, as a protector species, with all the obligations that title carries. Ward exchanged a glance with Cross. Obligations meaning you call, we answer, no matter where, no matter who's attacking. Correct, Selen said, but also the authority to act in defense of any Concord world without waiting for council approval. That last part caught Cross's attention. So you're asking us to be your sword arm. And shield, Thal said. We need both. There was silence for a moment. Cross thought of the vanguard, of the crew who had followed him through First Contact, Suspicion, and 2 live-fire missions in alien space. He thought of Earth, its cities, its people, still so new to the wider galaxy but already standing at a crossroads. Ward spoke first. Before we answer, we need to know the scale. How far does this Hollow Veil threat reach? The holo expanded again, marking every known incident. The red spread across the map like a sickness, stretching hundreds of light years. Malik exhaled softly. If they keep moving at that pace, they'll reach Concord core space within 2 standard years. Selen finished for him. Cross's voice was quiet, but it carried. Then you don't just need a protector species, you need a war partner. The chamber stilled at the phrasing. Arvex broke the silence. Do you accept? Cross didn't answer immediately. If we do, it won't be because you want a weapon. It'll be because you want someone who knows the cost of war and how to avoid it when possible. Selen's light brightened slightly. That is why we're asking you, Commander. Cross stood. Then Earth will stand. But know this. If we fight to end the threat, not to contain it. And we don't stop until it's over. The murmur that followed was not fear this time. It was resolve, spreading like a current through the chamber. Thal struck the dais with a ceremonial rod. Then let it be recorded. Earth is now recognized as a Tier 1 protector species of the Concorde. Ward leaned close as the chamber erupted in formal applause. You realize this just painted a target on our backs. Cross gave the faintest smile. Good. Makes it easier for them to find us when they come. The days that followed Earth's induction into the Concorde as a Tier 1 protector species were unlike anything the Vanguard's crew had experienced. Celestara Station's docks became a hive of activity. Ships from half a dozen member worlds arrived carrying supplies, observers, and in some cases, soldiers assigned to integrate with the humans for the upcoming campaign. From the observation deck, Ward watched the steady stream of arrivals. "You can feel it," she murmured to Cross. "They are moving fast because they are scared." Cross didn't disagree. Fear can be useful if it pushes them to act, but if it freezes them. "That's where we come in," Ward finished. Briefings with the Concorde's Joint Strategic Command were relentless. Holo charts projected across the Vanguard's main conference room showed sectors marked in crimson, confirmed Hollow Veil incursions, and sectors in amber, suspected targets based on emerging patterns. Selen, representing the Concorde Council, stood beside Arvex during the largest briefing yet. "Intelligence has identified the Hollow Veil's next likely strike, the Andoran Reach. 6 populated worlds, minimal defenses. If they fall, the path into Concorde core space is open." Vega studied the tactical overlays. "They don't just raid, they consume. Strip ships, cities, people, no survivors." Arvex's voice was a low growl. "And they move fast. Once they start, you have days, not weeks." Cross stepped to the center of the room. "Then we don't wait for them to hit Andoran, we meet them before they get there." Selen tilted her crystalline head. "Intercept in deep space." "Exactly," Cross said. "They won't be expecting resistance mid-transit, and it keeps the fight away from civilian worlds." Arvex's eyes narrowed, but with respect. "Risky, but it's the move I'd make." The plan formed quickly. The Vanguard as the spearhead, supported by a coalition task force, Karun warcruisers, Lorathi shield frigates, Mentari ECM vessels, and 24 smaller craft from other member worlds. It would be the largest multi-species fleet assembled in decades. As the ships prepared, the hangar bays of the Vanguard echoed with the sound of human and alien crews working side by side. Harper oversaw joint engineering teams as they adapted power couplings for cross-species compatibility. Dr. Foster coordinated medical protocols so alien casualties could be treated in human medbays and vice versa. One Mentari technician watching Harper recalibrate a reactor diagnostic panel asked, "Why help us integrate with your systems? You could keep your tech advantage." Harper didn't look up from her work. "If you're on our side, our advantage is your advantage. That's how you win wars and keep the peace after." In the crew quarters, Ward met with her diplomatic counterparts from the fleet. "Understand this," she told them. "If we win, the message isn't just that humans are strong. It's that the Concorde fights as one. The Hollow Veil need to see that they are not facing fractured worlds, they are facing a wall." On the final night before departure, Cross walked the Vanguard's corridors, speaking briefly with crew and visitors alike. He found Vega in the tactical suite, fine-tuning targeting subroutines. "You've got every gun singing in harmony?" Cross asked. Vega smirked. "When they fire, it'll be like an orchestra playing one note, and that note will break bones." In the medbay, Dr. Foster was triple-checking trauma pods. If they hit us hard, I need every second we can get, she said without looking up. They'll hit hard, Cross replied. We'll hit harder. Hours later, the fleet assembled beyond Silistara's outer defense ring. The Vanguard took point, her massive silhouette a stark contrast to the sleeker alien vessels flanking her. One by one, ships reported ready. Selen's voice came over the fleet channel. Coalition fleet, this is Council Liaison Selen. Today you carry the weight of more than worlds. You carry the proof that unity is stronger than fear. Stand together and the hollow veil will break before you. Cross took the channel next. This is Commander Cross. We're not here for glory. We're here to make sure there's a future worth fighting for. If they want to see what humanity can do, they'll see it. But they'll also see what happens when we stand with friends. On the bridge, Navigator Imani called out, "Fleet hyperspace jump calculated and synchronized. All ships on your mark, Commander." Cross looked once around the bridge, the steady hands on controls, the quiet determination in every face. Then he spoke the word that would commit them all. Jump. The stars twisted into streaks, and the fleet vanished into the swirling brilliance of hyperspace. Their target lay days ahead, a patch of cold, empty space where the hollow veil would pass. Unaware that, this time, their prey had teeth. Hyperspace tore away and the Coalition fleet emerged into the silence between stars. It was the kind of silence that made even veteran crews uneasy, too perfect, too still. But the stillness didn't last. Multiple contacts, Vega reported almost immediately. Hollow veil ships, 20 no, 30 plus. Vectoring in from 3 directions. The tactical holo filled with ghostly distortions. The hollow veil ships were unlike anything the fleet had faced, jagged silhouettes wrapped in shifting energy fields that swallowed sensor pings whole. They didn't glide, they lunged through space in erratic bursts like predators tasting the air. "Broadcast wideband challenge," Cross ordered. "See if they'll talk." Vega tried, but the only reply was a burst of static that made the comm techs wince. Ward stepped to Cross's side. "That's not an opening for diplomacy." "No," Cross agreed, "that's a warning snarl." The first volley came without ceremony, lances of dark energy that bypassed some shields entirely, melting armor where they struck. A Mentari ECM ship flickered, then vanished in a burst of silent light. "Harper, adaptive shield modulation now," Cross barked. "Already cycling frequencies," Harper replied, "finding gaps in their output." "Vega, mark those shooters." The Vanguard's forward batteries roared to life. Where most of the fleet fired cautiously, the human warship struck with deliberate violence. Railgun slugs and fusion bursts tearing into the Veil ship's energy fields. The first kill came fast. One of the jagged predators spun apart, its own reactor flaring in a brief, ugly sun. Karun warcruisers closed in on another cluster, their heavy guns thundering in unison with Vanguard's second salvo. Lorathi shield frigates wove between allies, absorbing incoming fire that would have gutted smaller craft, but the hollow veil adapted. Their formations shifted, focusing fire on the weaker ships in the coalition line. 2 Concorde corvettes vanished under concentrated beams. The fleet wavered. Cross's voice cut through the rising chaos. "All ships form on Vanguard, we take their center." Ward glanced at him. "Their center's the heaviest concentration." "Exactly," Cross said. "Break the spine, the limbs don't matter." The Vanguard surged ahead, coalition ships falling into a rough spearhead formation. Hollow veil vessels swarmed to meet them, energy fields flaring like storms. The impact was brutal, shields shattering, hull plating scorched, but the human-led formation didn't break. Vega called out firing solutions like a conductor leading an orchestra. Target Delta 2, fire. Shift to Echo 4, fire. Each burst was a note in a symphony of destruction, timed so that the Veil ships had no room to recover between hits. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, the largest of the enemy ships shuddered under a triple barrage from Vanguard and 2 Karun cruisers. Its energy field collapsed, and a railgun slug the size of a small car punched through its heart. The explosion tore across the Veil formation like a shockwave. The rest broke. Some went dark, drifting powerless. Others simply vanished into sudden folds in space, retreating in patterns too chaotic to trace. Enemy contacts disengaging, Vega reported. We've got the field. The bridge was silent for a long beat, the only sound the hum of systems stabilizing. Then Harper let out a slow breath. Damage control reports minimal loss to coalition ships. We actually did it. War didn't smile, but her voice softened. We did more than win. We showed them how we win together. In the aftermath, the fleet remained in formation, scanning for signs of a second wave. None came. The hollow veil had been stopped, not destroyed, but stopped, for the first time anyone could remember. When the coalition returned to Silistara, the welcome was unlike anything in Concord memory. The High Chamber convened in open session, broadcast across member worlds. Speaker Thal addressed the assembly. The hollow veil has been turned back. For the first time they met a wall they could not breach. That wall was built not by one world but by many, led by Earth's vanguard. Arvek stepped forward. I have fought in more campaigns than I can count. Never have I seen such coordination from species so different. The humans made it possible, not by standing in front of us, but by making us stand together. Selen's crystalline body shone like a prism under full light. This is what a protector species must be. Not a weapon to be feared, but a shield to be trusted. Cross looked around the chamber, his voice carrying across every channel. We didn't come here to rule. We came because the galaxy is too big and too dangerous for any one species to stand alone. Today we stopped the hollow veil. Tomorrow they'll come again, and when they do, we'll be ready, because now they know they're not facing prey. The chamber erupted in a sound that transcended species, cheers, song, the deep vibrations of alien approval. Later, on the Vanguard's bridge, Ward stood beside Cross, watching Silistara's lights fade into the distance as they set course for home. You know this isn't over, she said. Cross nodded. Good. Protecting something worth keeping never is. The stars stretched into lines, and the Vanguard vanished into hyperspace, not as an intruder in the galaxy, but as its newest guardian.